You did it. Well done. Now let's take a look at what you've done and how to evaluate this, how to figure out what it means, and most importantly, how to use it to be better communicators so that you get, in the end, the outcome that you're really looking for. Take a look at your answers. And what you want to do is simply count up the total number of O's, S's, D's, and I's. So total up your total number of O's, your S's, your D's, and your I's. Now you got to do a little bit of math. Here's what you want to do. You want to take your O minus your S. So if your O is 8 and your S is 1, you're going to take 8 minus 1, get 7. You're going to need that number. Now be sure to know whether that's a positive or a negative number. And guys, positive and negative, this is not a judgment. It's simply a value on a chart. So you want to be sure to know whether it's a positive number or a negative number. So if it's 8 O's and 1 S, it's 8 minus 1, that's 7. Your number is going to be plus 7. Then you want to take your O minus S and then your D minus I. Your D minus I. So if you have 4 D's and 5 I's, 4 minus 5, negative 1. Again, be sure to note if it's a positive or a negative, because that's going to make a difference in your evaluation and interpreting your results. So go ahead and take a look. O minus S, then D minus I. O minus S, then D minus I. Now you want to take a look at the chart in your handout, the graph in your handout. And what you'll notice is that the vertical line at the top, it says O, and at the bottom, there's an S. O minus S. So what you want to do is on that vertical line, you want to find that plus 7. And just mark the line by that plus 7. That's going to be above the line, just over about halfway mark. Find that 7 and mark the line, mark the vertical line. O minus S was a plus 7. Your D minus I is going to be on the horizontal line. Your D minus I was 4 minus 5, so that was a negative 1. So your D minus I, you want to find the negative 1. Find the negative 1 on your horizontal line and circle or mark that negative 1. Mark the line. And then simply draw a line that connects those two. Just draw a line that connects those two. This is going to tell you the quadrant, if you will, that describes your communication style. It'll show how you communicate. So make sure that that's correct. If you've got a partner handy, have them check your math. You'd be surprised how many people negatives can be a challenge for. So make sure that's right, because it will very much affect how you interpret your results. O minus S, D minus I. The O minus S is the vertical line, and the D minus I is going to be on the horizontal line. Mark the lines and then draw a mark that connects those two numbers, okay? Draw a line that connects those two lines. Okay, now let's talk about what this test really is, what this assessment is, and what it means for you. And then a little later, in one of the later videos, you'll learn how to actually use this in your communication. Here's what this is. This is simply an updated version of a personality style test that has been around for literally generations. It used to be we talked about earth, wind, fire, and water. Today, we talk about this in a little bit different way because, well, the world has changed. Society has changed. And all this is an assessment of observable behavior. Observable behavior. So that means I can hear it, I can see it, I can feel it, whatever. I can observe this particular behavior. And based on this behavior, we can tell a lot about a person. Based on this behavior, we can tell some of the things that motivate you to make decisions, some of the value systems that you use to make decisions. And most importantly, it tells us how to communicate with you. So you can learn not only about yourself, but you can learn about other people and how they're making decisions and what's important to them, so that when you're communicating with them, you really consider what their values are as you're talking to them, so you make sure that you're finding that connection. Because what you might find is that those people that are so difficult for you are really just really different. In fact, as you take a look at that assessment, ask yourself how that, I call him your Billy Bob. You know that guy that if I never had to work with that one again, it would be too soon? You know that one? How would that person answer some of these questions? And I suspect you'll find that a lot of them will be very different from yours. And sometimes those differences are so difficult because they create a great deal of conflict. So let's take a look at what these chart, or what this particular chart really means, what this graph really means. And then in a future video, you'll learn how to actually assess your particular results. So here's what it means. What you have first, let's take a look at your O minus your S, your O minus your S. And you guys have in your handout, you have the chart. So at the top where it says O, what you want to do is write the word open. Word is open. And then you have the 9, right? You have 9 all the way down to 0 right in the middle. Oh, and by the way, as you guys did your math, there will be no zeros because they're an odd number of questions. So it is designed so that you don't end up at the 0. If you did end up at the 0, go back and do your math again, okay? So you've got your O minus S, the negative numbers at the bottom. And again, it's not a value judgment at all. It's simply a number on a chart. And then you've got your O minus S number here, okay? Your positive numbers here, your negative numbers here. What you're looking at here, up here at the top by the O, write the word open, and at the bottom, write the words self-contained. Self-contained, that's the difference. Open versus self-contained. Now what will happen here is you're going to hear the distinct differences between open and self-contained because they're very different styles. And as they're described, you're going to hear the 9s and the negative 9s, just to show you a very distinct differences between the two. Most of you are not 9s and you're not negative 9s. Most of you are somewhere in between. A few of you are going to be 9s or negative 9s, but most of you are somewhere in between. So what you're looking for in this description, even though I'm going to the extremes here, what you're looking for in the description is something that sounds more like you when you're having a good day. And here's the difference. All this measures is how you share what you feel. How you share what you feel, how you're sharing your emotions. Can we read your emotions? Can we not read your emotions? So anyone who's above the line, we call you folks open people. You're considered an open person. And again, describing the plus 9s, the extremes, open people, you can tell exactly what they're thinking because it's all over their face. They smile when they're happy and they cry when they're sad. And if you have questions, when I'm doing a public seminar, it's interesting because you'll look around the room and you can immediately tell who the open people are because when they have a question, they'll do this. Or this. All you have to do is look at them and you can tell they're confused or they're wondering or they're thinking or they're pensive or they're happy and they're laughing, or you look at them and they're nodding. Very commonly the people who are above the line, they're nodders. They don't necessarily agree with you, but they nod a lot. These are the people that they wear their heart on their sleeve. You can just always tell what they're thinking because they express themselves. They show their emotions. They're open with their emotions. Now on the bottom, you have the self-contained. Any of the negative numbers, again, not a value judgment, simply a number on a chart. But on the chart, these are going to be below the line. These folks are called self-contained. These are the folks who don't show their emotions. You never want to play poker with a self-contained person because you have no idea what they're holding in their hand. You want to play poker with the folks upstairs, with the folks above the line, but below the line, they tend to be more of a stone face. There are people, they'll come to your seminars and you'll look around and they'll be the first ones to come up to you afterwards. They'll say, "Thank you, I learned a lot." And I think you're kidding because you haven't moved all day. You can't see anything in their faces. They're just very, they just look at you. They'll look at you from the audience and they just look right at you and you'll say something and you'll do this as a speaker and they just look at you. You just can't tell what's going on in there. So these are people, they have emotions, they just don't show them to you. That's self-contained. So the vertical line simply measures how much do you show your emotions? What observable behavior do you have that shows your emotion? And about half of the people in the country, in the world, quite frankly, half the people are above the line and half the people are below the line. None of this tells us why you are who you are, but it does tell us how you display who you are, and it can help us understand how you make decisions and what kind of things motivate you to go left versus right. Okay, so above the line people are more emotional, or excuse me, not more emotional. Let me correct that. Not more emotional. They simply show their emotions more. Those are very different things. They laugh out loud. People who are above the line, they'll laugh out loud. People below the line, I think one of the questions in the assessment is something about laughing out loud. It's interesting because you all judge yourself. In the assessment, you're all answering your own questions, so it's only as honest and accurate as you are. And some people, they'll be below the line, but they'll laugh and they'll say, "I laugh out loud." See? And that to me is not laughing out loud, but it may be to you. So the people who are below the line, these are the people who tend to play things a little more close to their vest. They don't like to show their emotions. They have them, they just don't like to show them. So let's take a look now at your horizontal line. The horizontal line is the I and the D. And the I stands for indirect. Be sure to write that on your handout as a reminder. The I stands for indirect, and the D stands for direct. Excuse me, again, the negative numbers, not a value judgment, just a number on a chart. The negative numbers are going to be more indirect, and the positive numbers are going to be more direct. So it's simply a spectrum here. Indirect, and again, most of you are not 9s or -9s, you're somewhere in between. But so that you get a really good look at what it means, I'll describe for you the 9s and the -9s, and you'll see sort of where you fall. So this line shows us how you share what you think. So the O minus S, the vertical line, tells us or shows us how you show what you feel, and the horizontal line shows how you share what you think. And here's the difference. Indirect people tend to hang back. They tend to think about things, consider the information, maybe gather some more information. And once they gather that information, they put it together, they look at it carefully, they do the math, they double check, and then when they're confident that they have the right answer, and only when they're confident that they have the right answer, do they then share what they think. They're careful, they ask questions. These are folks that measure twice and cut once. They're proofreading. They check things. They like to gather information. That's their thing. They like to ask questions. They tend to move slower, talk slower, more deliberately, more carefully, consider the information, and certainly decide slower, okay? Direct people are very different. Direct people are in your face. Direct people move fast, they think fast, they talk fast, they decide fast. They tend to move forward, they actually lean forward. Direct people will be very decisive. They give me the bullet points, I'll make the decision, let's move along. Direct people, direct people will ask you questions, but they're not really asking questions. See, an indirect person asking a question, it sounds like this. Do we need a break? And they'll actually look for a response. Direct people will say, do we need a break? And they'll walk away because they're not really asking anything. They've made a decision and they're moving along. Direct people are decisive. They make the decision and they move along. No grass grows under their feet. So that's the difference there. It's not what they feel, it's what they think. So the vertical line tells you how they display what they feel, their emotions, and the horizontal line shows you how they display or how they share what they think. Now, once you have those two things, once you have those two factors, we can tell a lot about you because it's the combination that really pulls things together. What you're going to find is now you have 4 quadrants, and the people who are above the line share a characteristic. They're open. The people who are below the line share a characteristic. They're self-contained. So as you hear the description of the different quadrants, you're going to find that you have a lot in common with with 2 quadrants as opposed to just your own. And then you have the quadrants that are left and right. What you'll find is the left-hand quadrants are both indirect. They tend to ask information. They tend to ask questions, gather information, process things. Where the people who are on the right side of the chart, they tend to be direct. They tend to be dominant. They tend to be louder, move faster, talk louder, make decisions much faster. So the people who are on the right side share a characteristic, and the people who are on the left side share a characteristic. So when you combine those things, we can tell a lot about you. When you come back after this video, be sure that you've marked your chart, be sure you found your quadrant. When you come back during the next video, you're going to take a look at a series of the 4 different kinds of people, the 4 different kinds of personalities, so that you can, one, see yourself, so that you can put that full-length mirror up in front of yourself and learn a little bit more about you. And that'll be interesting. But what's important is that you'll learn about others. What do you do in order to evaluate and to interpret who the other person is? And most importantly, figure out how do you use that information to really make a decision, to really get along better with others. Go ahead, take a second look at your chart, and I'll see you in the next video.